Are you ready to live your dream? Motivation, inspiration, and passion. That's what it takes to make dreams come true. Welcome to the Nadia Sahari Show. Our guests will share important tips, insights, and knowledge to help you fulfill your dreams of success. Here's your host, actress, author, entrepreneur, Nadia Sahari.
Hello, everyone. This is your host, Nadia Sahari, with the Nadia Sahari Show. Oh, yes, I have a guest today that is so interesting. He is so talented. He has what he calls Destiny Aurora books, comics, and board games. He is incredible. He is a film producer. So I'm not going to keep him on the line. We're going to talk to him right now, and his name is Frank Zanca. Frank, welcome to the Nadia Sahari Show.
Thank you.
So, Frank, you have a company called Destiny Horizons, and your book is Destiny Aurora. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Well, Destiny Aurora takes place, it's kind of, it's a sci-fi, so it's kind of a mix between Star Wars, Star Trek, and Guardians of the Galaxy, about a group of spacefaring space cops, where the main character is a little insane, and his wife was killed by an assassin during his watch when he was the head of a Secret Service. So he kind of blames himself and carries around this guilt, and of course he wants to find the assassin. So he took to drinking, etc. And his buddy, who was head of the space cops, said, "Come work with me, get out of this rut, and you can use our facilities to be able to find the assassin." And when he does, 5 years later, all hell kind of breaks loose. And of course, his crew is very eclectic because nobody wants to work with him because, he's reckless.
Oh,
So that's the basic storyline.
Cool. Okay. Wow. What a storyline. Now, you have some upcoming projects, and because I don't know what RPG stands for, but you can tell us, and you have a card game.
Well, Destiny Aurora is we're going on to the fourth book now. So the first book was basically the storyline I just mentioned. Then of course I have a two-parter called The Vizirath War, and now I'm into the fourth one. I'm halfway finished writing the fourth book. So there's a huge world that I'm basically creating, and that lent itself to other mediums. So now we're going on to the sixth issue of the comic, which tells an entire storyline. So that's going to be going to become a graphic novel. And now the board game, complete with miniatures and little ships and things like that, that released about a year ago.
Wow.
We're coming out with expansions there and selling very well. It's on Walmart and Target and Miniature Market, so it's pretty much everywhere.
Cool. And your book is on Amazon.com and other retail outlets.
On Amazon.
Yes, and if anyone just Googles your
Barnes
book.
and Noble.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. So as far as an RPG is concerned, that's what RPG stands for, role-playing game.
Oh.
And it's similar to Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons would be a role-playing game. It's where you don't have little pieces and things like that. You can, but for the most part, you're embodying a character, which is very different than a board game. So, you have somebody that's basically describing the story to you, and you're walking through it, things to that effect. And there's an RPG that's very famous that's called Starfinder, which is, again, along the lines of Dungeons and Dragons. And they're allowing me to use the Destiny Aurora world to encompass their rules and everything like that. So basically it gets built into that. So that's what I'm working on there. That's almost done.
Well, you're known as a producer and writer for Six Gun Savior, The Greatest American Hero, the Fan Series, and Star Trek Renegades in 2015. So tell us a little.
Tell us.
True. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's quite a list. What inspired you to become a producer in the first place, and how old were you when you first began?
I always really just wanted to be a writer. But I realized early on that the only way to really be a writer is to produce your own stuff in Hollywood.
Yes.
Going in and pitching into a network or a studio, though I've done that, is very, very difficult. So you pretty much have to raise your own money for the most part to get anything you want made. So for what I did with Six Gun is I ended up with a family that basically funded the film. We had Eric Roberts in there, and we had Marty Cove, who played the evil sensei in Karate Kid. We had some names in there, and it was basically a supernatural Western. But when I was younger, I was like, when I was trying to get into the business, I didn't want to direct for the most part, which I know is unusual because everybody wants to direct. Then I have to deal with actors.
Yes.
So I said, who's the boss of the director? And that's when I came up with producing. So that's why I ended up producing instead of directing, because I really wanted to be in control of my own stuff. Although I learned, very early on that you can't be very possessive of your material because it's always going to change.
Yes.
And some writers can't take that. They can't take the fact that somebody's changing their work. But you have to get off that stuff very quickly, and become a little bit hard nosed. In fact, when I was in the editing room for Six Gun, and even the director even changed my wording because he didn't think that people in the West spoke more than two syllables. So a lot of my dialogue and stuff was changed. But again, you have to have a very thick skin. But even when I was in the editing room, I saw that pieces had to be cut out, things to that effect. So my own script, I'm like, kill it. So again, you have to be able to wear two hats when you're on the creative side. Very low budget film, and it was very ambitious. We shot at the same location. I shot Django and Deadwood and things to that effect, but the film was only $500,000. So it was to do a period piece for that is. Especially with action, and had a whole thing of zombies at the end coming out of the ground and all this stuff. So
cool.
It was very difficult to do it on that budget. But I got it done.
We're good. That's great. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. Back with Frank Zanca of Destiny Horizons and his book Destiny Aurora and his other talents. Listen, Frank, I need to ask you, when did you start board game designing?
So I started 5 years ago.
Oh.
And I was at my brother's house, and I had at that point had never seen anything more than like Monopoly and any of the other Hasbro things.
Yes.
And I guess his boss for Christmas had bought him this game, and he says, the rule book is like 30 pages long. He didn't like to read the rules, so he asked me to read them while I was visiting. And I read through them, and I was intrigued because it was a completely different type of game than anything that I ever seen before. Once I got home, I bought it, and I ended up buying everything that company had ever done. And I was like, man, I could do this, and I could do it for Aurora. So I said, what kind of game would I like to play that's not out there? And that's how I started designing, and it took me a year to design the game.
Wow.
And then it took another year for the artwork all to be completed and stuff to that effect. So because I ended up getting a publisher. It took me a while to get a publisher because the game cost, over $100,000 to do. It was not something I could take out of my pocket. So I did a certain amount that I could take out of my pocket, and then from there I had to get a publisher. So I had to learn that whole thing, and I ended up getting one that fronted it, and then we ran Kickstarter, and we did over $100,000 on Kickstarter. So it did pretty well. And of course now that we're augmenting it, and I'm adding other games to the list. Like you said, I have a card game, a deck builder coming out too. Same lines, because when I first published my first comic in 1995, that's how long ago it was.
Wow.
With a project called Shadow Raven.
Mm-hmm.
And Shadow Raven now has been dormant for many years. I am now bringing him back, and I'm including this deck builder, and he's in the fourth Destiny Aurora novel, so I'm starting to meld the two worlds together and kind of create my own little Marvel verse.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Wow, you've got a lot of talent. You sound like me. Like I'm into everything, too. I'm creating this and that. And it's fun. It's really fun. And it's challenging, isn't it?
Well, it's more challenging about how to market it and how to get the eyeballs to it, especially being, independent.
Yes.
So even my publisher for the game was independent. So
so let me ask you, who do you feel in your life was your biggest influence for your success and what you're doing today?
It's not really it's a who, it's more of a what. So I think that the Star Wars trilogy back when I was, a child, I think that influenced me more than anything because that kind of opened up my imagination to, wanting to reach out of the box, which it definitely was at that time. So I think that more than anything, I wanted to create.
Well, see, there's a reason for everything, and we have a destiny, and I really like the name of your company, Destiny Horizons. That is cool. I really do.
Yeah, which is a story by itself, too, because
go ahead.
It was originally called Destiny Book, and another company in New York or whatever else that had a similar, not even the same name, but it was similar. So they sent me a cease and desist letter through my lawyer.
Oh, no.
And so I'm like, he's like, don't fight it, just change the name. Like, okay. So I came up with Destiny Ryan. It ended up being a happy accident.
Yeah, it's a great name. I love it. I wish I would have thought of it. It's great. Of course, you have Destiny Aurora, Destiny this, and games and cards, and so it really worked out for you really well. Is there anything that we should know about you, Frank Zanca, that we don't know and that you'd like us to know?
Right now, I don't know if this is anything personally about me, but right now I'm working with Nichelle Nichols, who played the original horror on Star Trek, and she's going to be retiring next year. So that's been very, very pleasing for me as well, because as you said, I did Star Trek Renegades. I produced that, so I got to meet a lot of the Star Trek, the old Star Trek alum, who I grew up watching as well. So I mean, I think that's very touching for me at this point, as well as seeing all my old heroes, even though they're older now, still meeting with them and working with them, and even being here towards their retirement is very touching for me.
Isn't that wonderful? What an opportunity for you. What an opportunity. That is wonderful.
Yeah, and I don't know if you touched on my other book as well. It's also kind of a highlight for me. The Escape from Berlin, the Diane Jacobs story, which is also on Amazon. But is a true story. So I ended up meeting with a Holocaust survivor and writing her story before she died several years ago. Oh. And I got to go speak on that and things to that effect. So I hope that touched some people as well when I wrote and did those speaking engagements.
Oh, I'm sure that would touch. It has to touch people. Anything about the Holocaust is...
well, it was the other part of it was the fact that she ended up being part of the Jewish resistance. So it wasn't being in a concentration camp. It was more of a story of empowerment. Oh. So that makes it even more special.
More special. So what valuable advice can you give our listeners if they want to pursue a career like yours into writing books, sci-fi books, or being producers, film producers, or card game developers and board game designers? What would you say?
I would say just try to do it. Just, as far as writing's concerned, I mean, I write. I mean, of course, there are some days when I just can't, but I spend, hours every single day writing, and you have to set the time aside. Whether you have a 10-hour a day regular job, you have to set the time aside to do the creation things. You can't just keep saying tomorrow, because tomorrow might never come, So, of course, after too many tomorrows, it's been years. So you really have to commit. And also, if you're doing stuff that has to do with writing or creating in general, even though, this is also funny with comedy, because everybody thinks everything they write is funny or everything they write is great.
Yes.
But don't take your own word for anything. Make sure you put it out to people. Like every time I write a book, I actually write the script first.
Yes.
And because of it, I did that because of Escape from Berlin, because of the fact that when I was writing the book for her, she never told me anything in order. And it was my notes were a complete mess. So I decided just to write it, and then she would fix it later. Where if I'd written the script first, it'd been a lot easier to fix things than rewriting prose.
Yes.
Rewriting prose, especially when you have to move everything around, it took me a year and a half to write that book. So I write the script first, and then I do a read-through with actors and with other people in the room, and then I open it up for problems, suggestions, things like that, critiques in general. The dialogue and the story doesn't work, I want to know, because if I start writing something that doesn't work, then rewriting it is a pain. So I definitely suggest doing that for anyone. Make sure that everybody, not even only your family or friends who may just, that you don't know, that's going to tell you the truth and give you critiques and say, well, this doesn't work and this isn't funny. And, here's a hole. And I think that you have to be open for critique, which, again, like I said earlier, you have to have a thick skin to be in this business.
Yes.
So make sure you thicken it by having people tell you it sucks. I mean, don't be, if somebody tells you it sucks, then ask why, and then if a bunch of people tell you exactly the same thing, there's a problem here, this doesn't line up, the dialogue is bad, then it's true. That's what I suggest for people, is to make sure that you get enough critiques that you can build up the way you write and the way you structure things and the way you create. The new game I have, I play tested it several times, and they're like, well, this is wrong and this doesn't work. And I ended up trashing the game to the garbage 3 times and then starting over.
Yes.
So you have to be willing. It's like, what's the old adage? Writing is rewriting.
Yes. Yes.
And with the same with any kind of creation, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember when I was writing my book, I think I wrote it over 5 times before I was finished, and it took me, I think, like 3 years to finish. Mine was a little different. It wasn't like sci-fi or anything. It was my memoir, so I had to go through a lot of different things. But you are incredible and amazing. And how can the audience connect with you and your books, and where can they buy it? We talked about it earlier, but let's talk about it again.
Sure. All my books, if you just type in Frank Zanca, Z-A-N-C-A, into Amazon, you'll see all my books come up, and because I have several on top of Destiny Aurora. This will be my last book for Destiny Aurora for a while. I'm actually going to move into the fantasy genre for a bit. You can also hit me up through Facebook, probably one of the only Frank Zancas on Facebook. I do respond to some messages there. I'm also fzanca@destinyhorizons.com. Hit me up through email there as well. Pretty easy to find. And, of course, we have a Destiny Horizons page on Facebook that you can like and message me through that as well.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show and for letting me interview you. You are a hard guy to catch, and I finally got you. And I'm glad.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I've been traveling around with Michelle for all the conventions. That's what I've been doing.
Yeah, good. Okay.
I haven't been home much.
No, you haven't. But here you are, and we did it finally. And thank you so much. And I wish you the best, and I wish you success. You have it. You're going to have more. And everything is your destiny. Everything is your destiny. Thank you so much, Frank, for being on the Nadia Sahari Show. I really appreciate it.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. That was Frank Zanca, Destiny Horizons. Make sure you get his sci-fi book, Destiny Aurora. It is incredible. It's amazing. It's wonderful. I have it. I read it. It's something else. The man is talented. And I'm looking forward to his card game and his board game and everything else that he does. I'm excited. So, we all have a purpose. We all have dreams. What is your dream? What is your life dream? Are you living your life, or are you living your dream? What is your purpose in this life? Everybody alive on this earth has a purpose. What is your purpose? God bless you all, and thank you, and tune in again next Tuesday. We have a great show for you. Surprise, surprise. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks for tuning in with Nadia and her guests. For more info, episodes, and connection, please visit our website, thenadiasaharishow.com. Share episodes with your friends. Follow us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Instagram, and most importantly, never give up. Live your dream.
Latin Connection magazine is a family magazine featuring people of influence, cultural events, and traditions, recipes and photos of Latin food, Hispanics in business. Plus, get news on Latin festivals, Latin entertainment, and Latinos in the fashion industry, and see photos of Latinos in action all over the U.S. Conoce tu vecino y mucho más. We invite you to share your special event with us at LatinConnectionMag.com. Latin Connection Magazine, Conexión Latina y mucho más. Latin Connection Magazine. It's for anyone and everyone to enjoy, no matter who you are.